Jagdish, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on the Fireside chat. I think we got a great topic today. I know cost optimization has been top of mind for so many organizations, especially as we've looked at the broader economic issues and things. So I'm just excited to have the conversation today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve, and it's always a pleasure to have a chat with you. Um, it's all across every topic that I talk to you, I feel I am enriched, and whether we were just chatting prior to this about tennis and Wimbledon and what it taught us as two champions fought it out, but we have similar challenges in the market, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about this topic of cost optimization, which is right on top of everyone's, right at top of the stack of things to solve or problems to solve.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it is on the top of everybody's agenda, really from the board level all the way down to the procurement specialists and the people executing on the ground. We're seeing differences right now across the different geos on the execution. But I think the general belief has been, if you look at the press over the last 18 months, we've really been trying to talk ourselves into a recession. And obviously, the central responding in lots of different ways. I think the Fed got a little bit ahead of the European central banks, certainly Bank of England, which caused a lot of the FX fluctuations in the market. That seems to have calmed down. So for your business and my business, that's a little bit better. Now we're dealing with, at least we don't have to deal with the currency challenges that we did last year. But I do have this broader sense that organizations are still very cautious, and that cautiousness in spend has trickled down into the markets quite a bit. So we've seen delayed spending on discretionary spend. We've seen a pullback in discretionary spend as well. We've seen delayed decision making, all sort of under this broader umbrella of the macroeconomic, factors that are taking place. The one piece that's really come out, though, that I think is positive is this broad sense around, I'll call it continuous cost optimization. And I think organizations now are saying cost optimization needs to be part of my arsenal from day one. And we really need a way to continuously look at how do we optimize our costs with more and more technology coming to bear, with different service providers having different capabilities and how they think about it. So what's sort of your perspective on this, what you guys see as well on these broader agendas with organizations?
Firstly, Steve, I think you've sort of given it a good, well-rounded picture of what's going on, especially around the term of recession, which we've been now sort of following through for the last 2 quarters, and what its impact has been in the business. And you're right, I think people are still cautious across the world. They're still wanting to. There is one way, there is no particular uh, business number that's demonstrating that they need to be cautious, but there is a worry or there is a feel that it's something around the corner that might happen that you should be careful about. And I think that causes the slowdown, that causes the thought process on it of what to optimize and how to still drive growth. And what one of the things that I thought was very resonated well with what you said was this whole journey of continuous cost optimization. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's a bad thing, because as businesses start to work together, they will constantly face a situation where you will fail. You will have situations where people will build on things that constantly have become part of norm, and then you obviously want to make sure that you don't make it as if it's given and that's what the process is. So the world we are living in is going to be constantly about challenging things and saying this is not, nothing is given. You've got to be probably, and especially post COVID, I think we all realize that everything's got to be challenged and everything's got to be the new normal is something that gets written almost every frequently over a period of time. And it's not that you got to wait for an event like COVID to happen. And I think in that journey, you talked about the European Commercial Bank and some of the status data that had came in. We saw that too. I mean, for example, the the data, the research that suggested that firms are expecting that their selling prices to go up because again, at the time it takes to close a deal, and therefore the amount of effort that it goes beyond it, and also along with it, the talent. It has not necessarily gone down as significantly. The talent war, I mean, hasn't gone down. So these two things have remained. While you have the fight for talent, which still continues, and I have a view on why it is still going to be something that will always continuously be, and the whole issue about the cost of driving sales. We at Tech Mahindra have seen a few things. We practice an offer of a blended framework. We call that the conscious cost transformation framework, something that allows you to look at what are the business processes and constantly, and it all today, I think tech and data allows you to get inputs on it on a regular basis and keeps telling you what's happening and what's the cost optimization opportunity in each of them. And it's got to be a continuous process because this is where you will take your money out to go and invest in new innovations, new incremental revenue streams, and incremental experiments that you will do. Not all of them are going to succeed, but where are you going to get the money from if you're not constantly? So, gone are the days when you do this annually. You don't look at it at a budget level and say that, it comes at the end of the year, we'll all look at the next year budget and so on and so forth. This is a model where you're going to constantly look at it almost on a quarterly basis. At least that's what we've been doing. We did it with about, three of our clients, a large telecom company. We did a global leader. We did about 25% improvement in their net performance scores and the NPS, looking at this and then driving that. We did the similar thing with a leading electronic manufacturer and realized savings of 3-digit million. Again, it won't happen over a large period of time unless and until you're constantly enabling them to look at what are the levers that we can look at. So my learning, Stephen, is that the cost optimization or the constant optimization or a continuous cost optimization that you referred to is here to stay. It's we as providers, and I guess you as consultants will constantly be able to enable our customers to be able to reach that.
Yeah, I think you brought up some really great points, Jagdish. When I look at the broader market and what the capabilities are, first of all, you're absolutely right that organizations are moving into lots of different experiments or bets. Probably more small bets than big bets these days, but definitely a lot of experiments. And as tech continues to get closer to the pointy end of the spear, if you will, and really drive business value, I think you're going to see more and more experiments. That means that the rest of tech, the rest of the back office really has to be optimized to really support that, as we're seeing. So we're seeing so many different strategies for organizations to do it. I mean, when we think about sourcing has always been part of that strategy, both for cost optimization, access to global talent, and I think even more so, really driving new capabilities. It's going to help organizations again get to that pointy end of the spear, if you will. So cost optimization, as we both keep saying, kind of that continuous cost optimization programs is so embedded in the thinking now. Some of the areas where we've seen this really take hold, I would say, the easy things are hardware, software, network. There's always components in there that can do it. But quite frankly, I think your broader digital strategy is now becoming part of your cost optimization strategy. And I've always said that, cloud isn't a digital strategy, but you can't have a digital strategy without a cloud strategy. And what we're seeing now is not only is, public cloud especially a great cost lever from a cost optimization strategy, once you hit the tipping point, which is really important, it's also part of your overall ESG or green strategy, but it's given so much flexibility on what organizations can do and how they think through. So combining these sort of big three, cost, flexibility, healthier environment, the growth, the agility, the flexibility, that's become a big lever for people. What's interesting though is we're seeing so many organizations struggle with that as part of their cost optimization strategy. We're seeing decline, sort of the rate of growth for the hyperscalers is declining. Still great growth, but that rate of growth has certainly declined. And organizations, I think, are struggling to make the cloud part of their core component as they go forward. What's sort of Tech Mahindra's perspective around this, and how do you see that growth over the next couple years really evolve?
Steve, you make a very interesting point. From our perspective, the digital, like the point you made about the digital part, is so true, that it's no longer just about transforming your business for growth, but it's also the digital transformation strategy needs to enable you to drive your cost transformation strategy. We in TechM called out 5 areas and said that in Tech Mahindra, we're going to focus on these 5 areas as our go-to players, offering to enable our customers drive their businesses forward. And those are primarily around the world of leveraging connectivity, which is the whole world of 5G, 6G, and therefore how you can leverage connectivity to drive a better business performance. Second, we said is engineering, which is really about the whole idea about data and design and so on and so forth to define your new set of service offerings and new products. And we're constantly going to be on top of that to enable to create that. Third, we said is cloud, like you said, that the
Yeah.
key critical part of this will have to be a cloud strategy as to how you do. And we know there are generations there that we've moved on from the modernize and migrate model in, I think, what I call as Cloud 1.0 to today to industry specific cloud applications which are built for cloud rather than migrate. That's what we're calling as the Cloud 2.0 type of a model. Then fourth, we call out as the experience, which is really about what is the experience you're going to drive to your customer, which is all data analytics and again design coming together, not just one or the other, but both the parts of this product. And finally, we layer that with sustainability. We say that sustainability tech. Yeah, I know there's a lot of talk, and probably we haven't converted a huge amount of that talk into business, but it tremendously has a lot of opportunity. So the reason I bring that together, Steve, is that both of these points are both growth drivers as well as cost optimization drivers. I mean, gone are the days where you would look at one as saying, okay, what's my growth driver technology and what will I use for my cost optimization technology? I think they're the same. You will use the same data analytics optimization to reduce and make sure your processes are efficient, or you will use connectivity to make sure, like I talked about, how will 5G and so forth enable you to do things faster, which automatically creates a better performance metric for your supply chain, for a retail company, or for a manufacturing setup, or for a banking and financial services institution, or for a telecom company. But the same 5G will also help you go out and create products that you can take to your customers, which they didn't have before. So it has a growth strategy as well as the cost optimization strategy kind of intertwined. We see this as the core of how we're going to engage with our clients and how we've seen this come together. A big example through this model that's obviously has been in discussion, but now we see a lot coming to Steve, is the shared services. The shared services model, the more we can probably bring together, the optimization that we can bring together, is where has to be at the core of every execution strategy, of for enabling the cost optimization that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think, kind of jumping on the shared services piece, I think we're at this interesting tipping point in the market as well. I think a lot of organizations and service providers have looked at shared services as a really strong model to optimize the cost. Again, as engineering really takes hold and it becomes sort of the growth, and industry specific sort of business operations really becomes the next level of growth, we're seeing a lot of organizations really consider global captive or global capability centers, global engineering centers, lots of different names for it, but really to start thinking through how do they even start repositioning hybrid type models to move forward. Service providers as a core, some GCCs as the core, certainly, new drivers for experiments and different things. And it's really become sort of that next step in the evolution of the business. And I think also part of the whole cost optimization umbrella. So we're working with multiple clients now that really see GCCs as sort of their next phase of growth. We talked about this on our index call in earlier in July, and it was really kind of taken back by the numbers on how much the GCCs have grown. I've known NASSCOM has talked about it in February. It's been, causing a lot of excitement and concern, I think is fair, within the India market. But I think overall it's been healthy for clients. It's been healthy for the overall industry, as again, global talent is really tied to growth drivers, and recognizing the talent, whether it's in India or Eastern Europe or all phases across the world, and integrating that talent, whether it be for analytics, engineering, etc., has really been a powerful growth driver for it. The future, though, of cost optimization is what's interesting. And I tell you, Jagdish, I haven't had a keynote or a fireside chat or any conversation without one word. I bet you can guess what it's going to be. Gen AI, right? I think as we go forward, what we're seeing is this amazing increase of AI. Now, I've kind of called it the Cambrian explosion of AI, not because of Chat GPT or GPT 3.5 or 4.0 or anything, but because of the ecosystem. There's literally thousands of products being launched based upon large language models, based upon the integration with it. RPA was really hot for about 5 years, and I think RPA, robotic process automation, will continue to be part of that. But Gen AI has really democratized, I think, the artificial intelligence conversation and brought it to the masses, where now people are really starting to see what the art of the possible is. And I can imagine a day much quicker than I think we believe, where Gen AI will be really part of so many of the business processes, so much of the cost optimization strategy. It's got to be a big point for Tech Mahindra's future growth as well. But what are your thoughts?
Well, Steve, I think you couldn't have, missed this conversation either without bringing that topic about Gen AI. Depending on whatever generations you belong to, that's a topic that is just at the top of. And like you said, I'm part of the exec committee in NASSCOM, and that's a topic that we are definitely, it's the top of the agenda in every meeting that we get into how to prepare how to create skills that are relevant for the world that it requires. And we firmly believe that the services industry is definitely not going away, but rather expanding because of Gen AI. We think that the opportunities, like every time it says, that it's probably going to shift from one bucket to the other. And it's more about, we feel strongly, and this is a strong belief, not just in NASSCOM, but also in terms of in Tech Mahindra, that at the end of the day, it's going to be a very strong combination of man and AI coming together. And that's how you leverage that, whether it's tools that are right now available or tools that will get built on it. And I think like everything else, it's going through a bit of a hype cycle. So obviously, you have these discussions about how the world can change using Gen AI. And then the other school of thought which thinks there's so much fear that the whole world will come crashing down and the robots will own us and stuff like that. So I think when we settle down and the dust settles down a little bit, we all sit down and think about what we can do, especially with the work that we are trying to do with NASSCOM. Um, I think there is a lot of opportunity. Obviously, there are low-hanging fruits which will help us in cost optimization. We as a company are very focused on those. For example, your operations area, your support area, your area of testing. Some of these areas will have a big role to play immediately. Development in itself has started to play a role in terms of what we could do to look at Gen AI and its implications. So we've set up industry specific application centers which run by our central AI team, which focuses on saying what would be the impact of that right now and what would be the impact of that on a business process from future. One of the things, Steve, we had the luxury of is that we have a very strong business process offering. A large number of our people work in that area, and therefore an understanding of what a business process is today and what it would look like tomorrow helps us make sure that we are able to put a few of these new technology interventions into it and look at it. Call centers, for example, or tech support, for example, or any of the app dev type work that we are trying to do with people. All of them have different levels of intervention from things like Gen AI. And the good part of it is that the customer is ready to listen and the customers are ready to experiment with us on which areas they want to probably put together. All at times that we need to do is to make sure that we sort of temper it down a bit, that you're not going to suddenly rewrite the whole world history over. We always we get it wrong by judging the impact to be too big, and in the long term we judge it wrong by not imagining the huge impact that it may have. And I think it's true for Gen AI as well. I don't know what you guys feel, Steve, about, you meet a lot many more customers in terms of their thought process on new technology, how to leverage it for cost optimization. How do they see things like Gen AI and Web3 technologies, things like metaverse, which we talked about a lot?
Yeah.
How do they see this?
I think there's two schools of thought, Jagdish, and this is why I sort of think it's the democratization of AI. For so long, and we can go back 20 years, quite frankly, 30 years, we've talked about the promise of AI and machine learning. But quite frankly, when we started making up names like data scientists and really high-end people with high-end salaries and coming in and getting the data, everything had to be so correct, the level of precision. It made it extremely complicated for execs, for business people to really get on board and say, what am I going to get? The launch November 30th, 2022, again, was such a huge moment because everybody got it. When it was on the cover of Barron's on February 17th, 2023, everybody got it. And so all of a sudden, these capabilities were brought to the masses. And guess what? Those masses sit in enterprises as well. And there was so much new ideas and energy focusing in such a short period of time of what we could do. A big because it made it real. So I know in my own life, every Saturday morning I share different tidbits on LinkedIn, on ChatGPT, to add the conversation from a different perspective. Right? I've created a little tool, a little prompt thing that gives me instant information on any company in the world. All I do is hit dash company name and I've got a perfect, thing. So instead of going around and saying I have 1,000 songs in my pocket like Steve Jobs, I say I go around, I have 100,000 companies in my pocket like Steve Hall. So
There you go, Steve and Steve. Yeah.
It really changes how we think. I did a fun little thing where I created a Michelin star recipes for this event that shows how powerful it is. And it was a little bit of a contest, what could you do type things. All of those same ideas are being carried over to the enterprise. But I agree with you 100% that to me, it's about the co-pilot. It's not about replacing, it's about augmenting. Everything that I use it for daily makes me better, makes me smarter, makes it faster for me to do things. Enterprises are doing the same things. I do think we're a little bit ahead of the hype right now, and we're making some big bets. We're working with multiple clients right now where service providers have come in and proposed 40 to 70% cost savings just from Gen AI, primarily on the AD, AM side, on what they can do with Copilot, Code Whisperer, some other type tools. That feels aggressive, it feels aggressive for this point in time, but I know they're all making bets that everything's going to mature within 3 years, for the length of those deals. So it does feel a little bit like we're getting ahead of ourselves, that with these types of deals coming to the market, we're all going to have to move faster. And as you said, contact centers are going to be disrupted, but I think F&A, HR, marketing, every organization is going to have a play here that's going to be combined with how we think through it. So like you, I think it's an exciting future. Jagdish, I know we're coming up towards the end of time. I just wanted to thank you again. It's such a pleasure to always catch up with you. And I always like our chats, and the fact that it's recorded is even better.
No, it's always a learning exercise, Steve, with you. As you rightly reminded me that there was one man who put music in the pockets, the other man's going to make sure there are companies in the pockets, and we have information available to us, all for good use, and
Exactly.
ethical use is what we want to do. But it's been pleasure talking to you, and thank you, and always a learning experience. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jagdish.